The air inside the county animal shelter throbbed with a relentless, unsettling energy. The frantic barking of unseen dogs, the clanging of metal doors, the hurried footsteps of overworked staff. It was a place of fleeting refuge, a last hope for many. But for some, like the pit bull mix huddled at the back of Kennel 42, it felt like a final waiting room. Bruin, his kennel card read. Male, approximately 3 years old, seized from a dogfighting ring. Scars consistent with fighting injuries, highly aggressive. Recommended euthanasia. He was a mass of tight-coiled muscle and old wounds, a roadmap of brutality etched across his body. A thick scar bisected his muzzle, pulling at his lip. Others crisscrossed his chest and legs. But it wasn't just the visible damage that marked him. It was the complete and utter shutdown. He wouldn't make eye contact, his body pressed low to the cold concrete floor, trembling almost imperceptibly. If anyone approached his kennel, a low, guttural growl rumbled from his throat, more fear than aggression. "That one's a lost cause," a kennel worker muttered, glancing at the card. "Came in from that raid last month. He's too far gone. Too dangerous. We're out of time and space." But amidst the despair and hurried resignation, one person saw something different. Maya, a quiet, unassuming volunteer who spent hours each week cleaning cages and offering comfort to the more approachable animals, found herself drawn to Kennel 42. She observed Bruin not with fear or pity, but with a patient, unwavering empathy. While others saw a dangerous beast, Maya saw profound, paralyzing terror. Ignoring the quiet warnings and the whispered comments, seeing the clock ticking down on his life, Maya made a decision. "I'll foster him," she said, her voice barely audible above the din, signing the necessary papers and stepping forward to claim a dog that everyone else had already written off. The challenge ahead was immense, the outcome uncertain, but for Bruin, it was a slim chance at a life beyond the cage, beyond the scars, beyond the fear. The car ride from the shelter to Maya's small apartment was a silent torment for Bruin. Maya had hoped that leaving the chaotic environment would offer some relief, but the change only amplified his fear. He remained frozen in the back seat, pressed against the door, his body trembling violently, every muscle coiled. The only sound was his rapid, shallow breathing, ragged gasps that spoke volumes of his inner turmoil. Even Maya's soft reassurances seemed to intensify his panic. Reaching Maya's apartment offered no solace. As soon as the crate door was opened, Bruin exploded into the small space, a blur of scarred muscle and abject terror. He didn't pause, didn't explore. He sought the deepest, darkest refuge he could find. The cramped space beneath Maya's old, claw-footed bathtub, accessible only through a small opening in the side panel. He wedged himself as far back as possible, disappearing into the shadows. Maya had prepared as best she could, transforming her small bathroom into a temporary sanctuary. She placed a soft blanket near the tub opening, along with bowls of fresh water and high-quality wet food, ensuring everything was easily accessible but allowing Bruin to remain hidden. She dimmed the lights, closed the window to minimize outside noise, and added a pheromone diffuser designed to promote calm. But for Bruin, it was still a prison, albeit a slightly less terrifying one than the shelter cage. For the first weeks, then stretching into months, Bruin existed as a ghost beneath the bathtub. He was almost entirely invisible. The food remained untouched. The water level barely shifted. If Maya accidentally bumped the tub or made a sudden movement in the bathroom, a low, menacing growl emanated from the darkness, a clear warning to stay away. Any attempt to coax him out, even with the softest voice or the most tempting treats, only intensified his fear. Maya learned to move with extreme caution, to speak in hushed tones, to avoid entering the bathroom unless absolutely necessary. His physical state was deeply concerning. He was visibly underweight, his ribs easily felt beneath his rough, scarred skin. Patches of fur were missing, and his skin was dry and flaky. signs of chronic stress and neglect. The scars from his fighting days were stark reminders of the violence he had endured, each one a testament to the cruelty he had survived. Maya knew she couldn't address these physical needs until she earned even a sliver of his trust. Her approach was defined by unwavering patience. Several times a day, Maya would enter the bathroom, quietly replenish the food and water, and then simply sit on the floor a safe distance from the tub, reading a book, working on her laptop, or just being present. She made no attempt to interact with Bruin, avoiding eye contact, offering only soft, gentle words, narrating her actions, creating a predictable, non-threatening routine. She focused on making her presence a signal of safety, not a source of fear. She also started leaving small piles of high-value treats, tiny pieces of cooked chicken or steak, near the tub opening when she left, hoping to entice him out when she wasn't there. The initial days were marked by intense self-doubt. Was she doing the right thing? Was she equipped to handle a dog this traumatized? Was she just prolonging his suffering? The pressure of his fear, his utter rejection of her, felt overwhelming at times. But then she'd remind herself of the alternative, the shelter cage, the growing label of aggressive, the ticking clock towards euthanasia, and her resolve would harden. He deserved more than that. He deserved a chance, no matter how small, no matter how long it took. She started calling him Bruin, a name that reflected his strength, the power she sensed beneath the fear. She whispered the name softly as she sat in the bathroom, hoping that one day he might hear it, might recognize it, and might, just might, begin to believe that it belonged to him. Weeks turned into months, stretching the limits of Maya's patience and testing the strength of her resolve. The small victories were almost invisible to the naked eye. A treat, gone from the pile left near the tub. A slightly less tense posture when Maya entered the bathroom. A barely audible shift in his growl. A note of fear replacing the pure aggression. Bruin remained trapped in a cycle of fear, his world reduced to the claustrophobic darkness beneath the bathtub. But Maya's unwavering presence, her quiet respect for his boundaries, began to yield subtle clues. Maya started to catalog triggers, small things that seemed to unlock an immediate and intense fear response in Bruin. She noticed he became especially agitated by raised voices, particularly male voices, even on the television. A stick she used for cleaning the floor sent him scrambling. Any sudden movement of her hands above his head, even just reaching for a shelf, triggered a violent flinch, as if expecting a blow. The sound of dogs barking aggressively on the street outside sent him into a trembling fit. These observations, however small, offered a grim glimpse into the horrors of his past, suggesting years of brutality, conditioning, and the constant threat of violence. Then came the storm. It started late one night, a distant rumble that gradually intensified into a deafening barrage of thunder and torrential rain. Maya, initially unconcerned, soon realized the storm was having a catastrophic effect on Bruin. He began to whine, a sound Maya had never heard before, a heart-wrenching cry of pure, unadulterated terror. The whining escalated into frantic barking, then a desperate, animalistic howling that echoed through the apartment. The storm seemed to unlock something primal within him, shattering his fragile control. Maya rushed to the bathroom, her heart pounding with fear. The scene that greeted her was devastating. Bruin had somehow managed to squeeze out from under the bathtub, something he hadn't done in months. His body shaking uncontrollably, his eyes wild with panic. He was running blindly around the small room, slamming into walls, knocking over the water bowl and litter box. In his frantic state, he had torn down the curtain rod, shredding the shower curtain. The worst was yet to come. As Maya cautiously approached, murmuring soothing words, Bruin suddenly whirled around, snarling, his teeth bared. It wasn't the calculated defensiveness she had seen before. It was pure, unadulterated fear, fueled aggression. He lunged, snapping at her hand. Maya recoiled, narrowly avoiding a bite, realizing with a jolt that she was in genuine danger. She managed to back out of the bathroom slowly, her heart racing, leaving Bruin alone in his terror. For hours, the storm raged, and so did Bruin. The apartment echoed with his frantic cries and the sounds of destruction. Maya, heartbroken and terrified, could only sit outside the door, offering quiet words of comfort, desperately hoping the storm would pass. The following morning, the storm subsided, leaving a trail of destruction in its wake. The bathroom was a disaster. Shredded curtains, overturned furniture, scattered litter. Bruin had retreated back under the tub, but his state was even more alarming. He was completely unresponsive, refusing food or water, and now, even Maya's presence near the door elicited a low, guttural growl. The progress of months felt utterly destroyed. Defeated, exhausted, and questioning everything, Maya knew she needed to understand the depths of what Bruin had endured, if she had any hope of helping him now. Desperate for answers, Maya contacted the shelter again, hoping to glean more details about the dogfighting bust and Bruin's specific history. She managed to connect with Officer Davies, the animal control officer who had been involved in the raid. Officer Davies, initially hesitant, agreed to speak with Maya off the record, understanding her genuine concern for Bruin. She confirmed that the dogfighting ring was one of the most brutal she had ever encountered, the conditions horrific. "Those dogs weren't just fighting," Officer Davies explained, her voice low and grave. "They were tortured, starved, and conditioned to be killing machines. They used bait animals, forced the dogs to fight until they were nearly dead, and those that didn't perform were disposed of. It was pure evil." She couldn't provide specific details about Bruin's individual experience, citing confidentiality, but she confirmed he was one of the most scarred and emotionally shut-down dogs they had rescued, suggesting he had likely been fighting for a long time and had suffered greatly. She described the lasting psychological damage such trauma inflicted on these animals, the intense fear, the hypervigilance, the deeply ingrained survival instincts that made rehabilitation incredibly difficult. "He's fighting ghosts, Maya," Officer Davies said quietly. "Just remember that. He's not aggressive. He's terrified." Her words, while chilling, armed Maya with a new understanding. The storm hadn't just triggered a memory. It had unlocked a lifetime of fear. The journey ahead would be longer and harder than she had ever imagined. The aftermath of the storm left Maya feeling utterly depleted. Bruin remained barricaded under the bathtub, his trust seemingly shattered. The destruction in the bathroom served as a physical manifestation of the chaos raging within him. Days blurred into a week, and then another, with only minimal improvement. He ate and drank sparingly, but remained hyper-vigilant, his body tense at the slightest sound. Maya continued her quiet routine, but the usual whispers of hope felt muted, replaced by a gnawing sense of inadequacy. She realized with painful clarity that her love and good intentions, while essential, were simply not enough. Bruin needed more, far more than she could offer on her own. She needed guidance, expertise, someone who understood the intricate pathways of a dog's traumatized mind. Remembering hushed recommendations from the shelter staff, Maya reached out to Mr. Henderson, a figure whispered about with reverence, a retired K-9 officer and longtime volunteer known for his almost uncanny ability to connect with the most challenging, seemingly unreachable dogs. Mr. Henderson, a man etched with the quiet strength of someone who had witnessed both the best and worst of humanity, agreed to visit. He arrived not with grand pronouncements or quick fixes, but with a quiet presence that immediately instilled a sense of calm in the apartment. He asked Maya detailed questions about Bruin's history, his triggers, his subtle behaviors. Instead of immediately approaching the bathroom, Mr. Henderson simply sat with Maya in the living room, his gaze focused on the closed door. He listened intently as Maya described the devastating effects of the storm and her own growing fear. "That storm," he said quietly, his voice gravelly with age and experience. Just peeled back the layers, showed you what's underneath. It didn't undo your work, it just revealed the depth of the wound. That's hard to face, but it's important. After an hour of patient listening, Mr. Henderson rose slowly, his movements deliberate and non-threatening. He walked to the bathroom door, stopping several feet away. He didn't speak, didn't try to coax Bruin out. He simply stood there for what felt like an eternity, his presence a silent offer of understanding. Finally, he turned back to Maya, his eyes filled with a gentle wisdom. "That dog is carrying a heavy load, child," he said softly. "A load of fear, pain, and mistrust. He's got to learn to put it down, but he can't do it alone." He validated Maya's efforts, recognizing the immense patience and dedication she had already shown. He cautioned against expecting linear progress. There'll be good days and bad days, steps forward and steps back. It's not about fixing him. It's about helping him learn to live with his shadows, showing him he can still find the light. He offered practical advice: create predictable routines, manage the environment to minimize triggers, and focus on building a relationship based on trust, not force. He emphasized the importance of reading Bruin's body language, respecting his boundaries, and always prioritizing his safety. He needs to know you're his protector, not his punisher. Following Mr. Henderson's visit, Maya arranged a consultation with Dr. Evans, the vet recommended by the shelter. The thought of transporting Bruin again filled her with dread, but Dr. Evans assured her they would take every precaution. They prepped the carrier with calming pheromones and medication. Maya practiced getting Bruin into the carrier, pairing it with high-value rewards. On the day of the appointment, Dr. Evans met them outside, minimizing Bruin's time inside the clinic. She performed most of the examination gently within the carrier, respecting Bruin's space. She addressed his lingering skin issues from neglect, administered updated vaccinations, and confirmed his dental health needed attention, but she prioritized building trust over immediate intervention. Dr. Evans also discussed the possibility of using anti-anxiety medication long-term, explaining that reducing Bruin's baseline anxiety could significantly aid his behavioral rehabilitation. "Think of it as giving him a little bit of space to learn," she explained, without being constantly overwhelmed by fear. The consultation, though stressful for both Maya and Bruin, provided a renewed sense of direction and a collaborative plan for navigating the long, challenging journey ahead. It confirmed what Maya had already suspected. Bruin's path to recovery would be a marathon, demanding a multifaceted approach that addressed both his physical and emotional scars. She wasn't just caring for a dog. She was meticulously piecing together a shattered soul, one small step, one quiet moment at a time. It was time to begin, again. Armed with new insights and a structured plan, Maya embarked on what felt like the most challenging phase of Bruin's rehabilitation. Dr. Evans prescribed a low dose of anti-anxiety medication to help reduce his baseline fear, along with specialized supplements to address lingering nutritional deficiencies. Mr. Henderson emphasized the importance of consistent routines, predictable interactions, and meticulous trigger management, building a foundation of safety and trust upon which further progress could be made. The core strategy was a combination of counter-conditioning and desensitization, carefully tailored to Bruin's specific fears, and implemented with unwavering patience, moving only as fast as he was willing to go. Maya began by meticulously documenting every trigger she could identify, noting Bruin's specific reactions: the dilated pupils, the flattened ears, the tense muscles, the tail tucked low, the whale eye, the growls, the trembling. She then developed a detailed plan for systematically addressing these triggers, one by one, starting with the least anxiety-provoking and gradually working towards the more intense one. The process was painstaking. One of Bruin's most potent triggers was the presence of men, likely stemming from the all-male environment of the fighting ring. Maya began by simply playing recordings of calm, male voices at an incredibly low volume while she was in the room with Bruin, pairing the sound with the immediate delivery of a high-value treat, a small piece of cooked chicken or a dab of peanut butter on a spoon. Over weeks, she slowly, almost imperceptibly, increased the volume, always monitoring Bruin's body language for signs of stress, immediately decreasing the volume if he showed any anxiety. She also started inviting a close male friend, David, to visit briefly, but only while Bruin was safely under the tub. David would simply sit quietly in the living room, speaking in a low, calm voice, never attempting to approach Bruin, his presence becoming another predictable, non-threatening element. Another significant trigger was the presence of objects resembling weapons or tools, particularly anything long and thin like sticks, brooms, or even the vacuum cleaner. Maya began by desensitizing Bruin to the sight of a simple broom handle from across the room. She would place it in a corner, rewarding Bruin with treats for simply looking at it without reacting fearfully. Over weeks, she slowly moved the broom handle closer, always pairing its presence with positive reinforcement. The goal wasn't to make him like the broom, but to teach him it wasn't a threat. Progress was measured in millimeters, not miles. There were days when Bruin seemed to regress, days when even the slightest variation in the routine sent him spiraling back into fear. But Maya persisted, driven by her unwavering belief in his potential and the quiet satisfaction of seeing the tiniest glimmers of hope emerge. She celebrated the small victories. The first time Bruin consistently took treats from her hand without flinching. The first time he allowed her to scratch him gently behind the ears for a few seconds before pulling away. The first time she saw him relax, his body completely, his muscles loosening, his breathing slowing, his eyes softening. There were moments that made Maya's heart leap with quiet joy. One afternoon, while she was sitting on the floor reading, Bruin emerged from under the tub, not to dart to the food bowl, but to sniff cautiously at her outstretched hand. He didn't touch her, didn't take the treat she offered, but the simple act of approaching, of initiating contact without fear, felt monumental. Another time, she caught him gazing directly at her from across the room, holding her gaze for a brief moment before looking away, a fleeting connection that spoke volumes. Check-ins with Mr. Henderson were invaluable. He validated Maya's slow, patient approach, reminding her that you can't rush a miracle. He offered subtle insights into Bruin's behavior, pointing out nuances she might have missed. He encouraged her to celebrate every small win and to forgive herself for the inevitable setbacks. During one call, Henderson reminded her, "You're not just giving him a new life, Maya. You're giving him a new story. And every day, you're writing a new chapter, one filled with kindness, trust, and hope instead of fear." Regular consultations with Dr. Evans provided further support, monitoring Bruin's physical condition and adjusting his medication as needed. Dr. Evans emphasized the importance of mental stimulation and finding ways to engage Bruin's mind safely. She suggested food puzzles and interactive toys to encourage exploration and build confidence. The work was exhausting, demanding constant vigilance and unwavering commitment. But with each hard-won micro-breakthrough, with each fleeting moment of connection, Maya knew she was making a difference, peeling back the layers of fear and revealing the resilient spirit that lay hidden beneath the scars. Months blurred into a year, the safe room gradually expanding to encompass more of Maya's apartment. Bruin, while still cautious, was no longer confined to the area beneath the bathtub. He explored the living room, the hallway, and even briefly ventured into Maya's bedroom when she was present. His new safe spots included the sofa, a sunny windowsill, and a soft cat bed Maya had placed near her desk. But the outside world, the world beyond the apartment walls, remained a source of intense anxiety. Guided by Mr. Henderson and Dr. Evans, Maya decided to take the next step, carefully introducing Bruin to controlled experiences outside the immediate safety of his expanded territory. They started with short, quiet walks in the deserted parking lot behind Maya's apartment building late at night, when there was minimal traffic or human presence. Maya carried Bruin in a soft-sided carrier, allowing him to observe the environment from a safe distance, pairing every outing with high-value treats and soothing words. The initial walks were brief, lasting only a few minutes, Bruin remaining tense and alert inside the carrier, his body pressed against Maya. Gradually, as he became more accustomed to the sounds and smells, Maya began to unzip the carrier slightly, allowing him to peek out at the world. Progress was slow, measured in inches and minutes, but Bruin never panicked, never tried to escape, always trusting Maya to keep him safe. A significant hurdle was Bruin's intense fear of other dogs, a likely consequence of his fighting past. Dr. Evans recommended a slow, controlled introduction to a calm, well-socialized dog from a distance, focusing on positive associations. Maya arranged for short, supervised visits from a friend's elderly golden retriever, Daisy, in a large, open field. The first few visits involved keeping Bruin securely in his carrier, positioned far away from Daisy, allowing him to observe her from a distance, rewarding him with treats for remaining calm. Over time, they gradually decreased the distance, always watching Bruin's body language for signs of stress. The goal wasn't for Bruin to play with Daisy or even approach her directly, but to learn that other dogs didn't automatically represent a threat. Then, with Mr. Henderson's encouragement, Maya identified a specific, achievable challenge representing a major step forward for Bruin. Successfully navigating a basic obedience exercise outside of the apartment, a simple sit command on a blanket placed in a quiet, relatively open area. It seemed deceptively simple, but it required Bruin to trust Maya, to focus on her commands despite external distractions, and to overcome his ingrained hypervigilance. The chosen location was a secluded corner of a local park, far from busy roads or dog walking areas. During a quiet weekday morning, Maya prepared meticulously, bringing high-value treats, a familiar blanket, and a portable speaker playing calming music at a low volume. She informed Mr. Henderson, who offered to be nearby in case of emergency. As they approached the park, Maya could feel Bruin tensing in the carrier, his body trembling slightly. She spoke softly, reassuring him, offering treats. Reaching the secluded spot, Maya carefully set down the blanket and, after a long pause, gently coaxed Bruin out of the carrier. He remained close to her side, scanning the environment nervously, his tail tucked low. Maya kept her voice calm, her movements slow and deliberate. She didn't force him onto the blanket, simply waited, offering treats when he looked at it. After several minutes, Bruin hesitantly stepped onto the blanket. Maya immediately rewarded him with praise and a treat. "Good boy, Bruin," she murmured. She then gave the sit command, a command they had practiced extensively in the safe room. Bruin hesitated, his focus torn between Maya and the unfamiliar surroundings. His muscles were tense, his ears swiveling. The air carried unfamiliar scents. Distant birdsong seemed amplified. For a moment, Maya feared he would bolt, but then he looked at her, truly looked at her, seeking reassurance. He saw her calm face, her gentle smile, the treat held enticingly in her hand. And then he did it. Slowly, deliberately, he lowered himself into a sit, his gaze fixed on Maya. His tail remained tucked, his body still slightly tense, but he sat. Maya showered him with praise and treats, her voice filled with a quiet joy she couldn't contain. He held the sit for only a few seconds before getting up and pacing nervously, but it was enough. Bruin had faced a world that once represented only fear and pain, and he had chosen, however tentatively, to trust Maya, to obey her command, to find a small measure of control within the chaos. He hadn't enjoyed it, hadn't relaxed completely, but he had navigated the challenge without shutting down, without reacting defensively. He had coped. As they walked back towards the apartment, Bruin pressed close against Maya's leg, a silent acknowledgement of the shared victory, a small but monumental step towards reclaiming his life from the shadows of his past. The passing seasons brought a quiet but profound blossoming in Bruin. The once gaunt frame filled out with healthy muscle. His scarred coat gleamed with a newfound richness. His eyes sparkled with intelligence and an almost mischievous curiosity. The constant trembling, the hypervigilance, the reflexive defensiveness, these were now fading echoes, replaced by the confident posture of a dog who finally felt safe, loved, and understood. Bruin learned to enjoy walks, not just tolerate them. He sniffed excitedly at new scents, greeted familiar faces, human and canine, with tentative tail wags, and even engaged in playful games of fetch, albeit always on his terms and always with his beloved Maya by his side. He became a devoted companion, following Maya from room to room, resting his head on her lap during quiet evenings, and showering her with gentle nudges and soft, grateful eyes. While he might always carry a trace of his past, a slight wariness of strangers, a sensitivity to loud noises, the core of his being had been transformed, his spirit healed. Word of Bruin's incredible journey spread throughout the local rescue community. Maya shared photos and videos of his progress, his transformation serving as a beacon of hope, challenging ingrained prejudices and reminding everyone of the potential hidden within even the most traumatized animals. The shelter where Bruin had been deemed too aggressive now proudly featured his story on their website, a testament to the power of patience and dedicated care. A skeptical neighbor who had once crossed the street to avoid Bruin now stopped to pet him, marveling at his gentle nature and asking Maya for advice on adopting a rescue dog. Sitting beside Bruin in the park one sunny afternoon, watching him chase squirrels with unbridled joy, Maya reflected on the long, arduous path they had traveled together. It had been a journey that demanded every ounce of her patience, her compassion, and her unwavering belief in Bruin's inherent goodness. There were times she had questioned her own ability, doubted her own strength, but Bruin, in his slow, silent language, had always shown her the way forward. He had taught her the true meaning of resilience, the transformative power of trust, and the profound rewards of simply being present, offering unwavering love without expectation. He hadn't just been rescued. He had, in many ways, rescued her too. The hard-won peace they now shared was a testament to the unbreakable bond forged in the fires of adversity, a symbol of hope shining brightly against the darkness of his past. From the brink of euthanasia, in a noisy shelter kennel, branded as aggressive and beyond hope, Bruin's story is an extraordinary testament to the power of second chances. His transformation, achieved through months of unwavering patience and profound compassion, reminds us that even the most deeply scarred animals possess an incredible capacity to heal and to love. Supporting rescues that specialize in behavioral rehabilitation, advocating against breed-specific legislation, and understanding the unique needs of traumatized dogs are vital steps in creating a world where more animals like Bruin are given the chance to not just survive, but truly thrive. Their bond is a powerful reminder that with patience, understanding, and unwavering love, even the most broken spirits can find their way back to the light.